Yes, hello, Eric. I have a question about the Chinese tariffs announced today. We would like to have it on camera. It's about the hopes that you have for the talks ahead with your Chinese counterparts. We know that last month China vehemently attacked the investigation, calling it unfounded, exaggerated, etc. But today the Chinese ministry said that there's a fourth-month window of opportunity ahead. So have you noticed a change of attitude from your Chinese counterparts in the past few weeks? And what are your hopes to find, let's say, acceptable solution that could prevent the permanent introduction of tariffs? Thank you so much.
Thank you. What is clear is that what the EU wishes for is a solution. It is not the introduction of tariffs. The introduction of tariffs is not an objective per se. It is a means to correct an imbalance, an unfair competitive situation to the detriment of producers of electric vehicles in the EU compared to those who are producing vehicles in China. And that is precisely why we have been so vocal on the fact that we want this dialogue with our Chinese counterparts, and this dialogue is taking place. I cannot comment on the detail of the discussions that are ongoing, but it is certainly positive that these messages are coming out of China. What we need is a solution that corrects the unfair advantage that is given to producers in China. On the same issue?
Yes, on the same issue. Laura Coston from ARD, German television. So member states so far seem to be divided on the issue of tariffs. German Chancellor Scholz doesn't seem to be in favor because for him it's not the right way towards reduction of trade barriers. Other member states seem to be more supportive. How are you going to achieve consensus between the member states on the issue, since now they have to vote on that in the near future? And would it be a godsend for China if there would be a division between the member states? And if they are not agreeing on the tariffs, which tools do you have at hand at Commission to actually enforce them?
So that's quite a few questions. So once again, let me reiterate. The provisional tariffs that are being imposed today are a means to an end. Nobody wants to come to a situation where you have to take such a step. But the fact is that there are significant interests, industrial interests and employment interests in Europe, and our investigation has clearly shown that there is damage being done through these unfair practices by China to the interests of EU industry, those who produce electric vehicles in Europe. Now, of course, member states can have opinions as to what is the best way to come to a solution. And what we are saying is, look, we want to find an agreement with China. And in that context, we are going to apply these provisional measures while at the same time discussing with our Chinese counterparts to come to a solution. And we certainly hope that we do come to a solution which would then allow us not to have to move forward on this road. Now, trade policy is, of course, an EU competence, and therefore there are votes, as you say, through the member states, but ultimately this is a competence which is exercised at EU level. But again, we are both talking to the member states and to China to come to a solution. Yes.
Thank you. Already we've seen some automakers, including Volkswagen, who have been very critical, so I wanted to know if the Commission had any reaction to their criticism. I think Volkswagen perhaps used the word detrimental And I wanted to know if the Commission can reassure European citizens that these duties, because it's all about fairness, will not necessarily mean higher prices for electric cars in Europe. And if I could, would it be possible for you to spell out, because we hear the terms level playing field, and I understand them, but in terms of Europe's industry, is this about making sure that European car makers are protected and they will continue to exist, like it's an existential issue? Just kind of fleshing out the ways that this is trying to protect them beyond just the phrase protecting European industry. Thank you.
So I'm not going to go into comments made by individual stakeholders. Let me just point out that stakeholders, interested parties, have the opportunity to comment in the context of the procedure which is currently underway. What I can say is that the decision which has been taken today, which has been published today, is based on a 9-month investigation, a very thorough investigation, including on-the-spot visits, both in China and in the EU. And on that basis, on the basis of that investigation, the Commission has come to the conclusion that there is a disadvantage, a factual disadvantage linked to the practices of granting certain subsidies to electric vehicle manufacturers in China. So for us, this is entirely fact-based. It's not a question of interpretation. And as you will have seen, we have even corrected downwards slightly the provisional tariffs that will be applied, thanks to comments that have been made on clerical errors that crept up in the calculations, comments that came from the interested parties. So that's on your first point. On your second point, the whole point, and this is a general point for the European Union, is we want fair competition. Fair competition in the long run is what is best for consumers. And I'm sure that Leah could give you many, many examples of why this is important in the long run. You may have an advantage in the short run as a consumer by unfair practices, but in the long run, because there will be less competition, it's going to be detrimental for consumers. And finally, to come to your last question, we have a transition which is ongoing. Right? We have the European Green Deal. We know that the European car industry, as all industries worldwide, by the way, probably have to move forward in terms of transition. And this transition obviously requires massive investment. Massive investments require confidence that you are going to be operating on a market that is fair, where everybody has a chance to succeed based on their competitive advantages, not an advantage that is given through irregular state means. And this is what it is about. Let me stress very clearly, this is not about shutting out any producer from the market. That's not what we're doing. That's what others may be trying to do, but certainly not the European Union. We are correcting a competitive imbalance. Therefore, there will continue to be choice for European consumers. And that's very important. Vehicles manufactured in China will continue to be available in Europe, but under conditions which means that there is fair competition with their European competitors. One follow-up.
It'll be a very quick one. So could I say that the European Commission welcomes Chinese companies coming to Europe and producing the cars here and selling them to European citizens?
The Union is a very, very open continent when it comes to investments. It's also a very open continent when it comes to imports. We are by far the continent with the largest number of trade deals across the world. We are a very active member of the WTO. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the statistics, we are, if not the biggest, certainly one of the top 2 or 3 main trading entities in the world. So this is not at all what this is about. This is about ensuring simply that there is fair competition in an industry that is important, of course, as an industrial sector in Europe, and important for the green transition that we want to implement. I see no further questions on this. Do you have any other questions for us today on other issues? Mose.
Okay.